Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Retro Wrestling Review Series, Season 5, Episode 3. And now I'm going to be covering the Elimination Chamber 2011 pay-per-view, which is going to be kind of fun because I haven't seen this show before. I know what happens on it and stuff, but I actually haven't sat down and watched the show. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it is. So let me just kind of talk about some of the stuff that's going to be on it. I won't really mention the matches, just the build up yet. I'll wait until I actually watch the show, but I'll talk about it. So obviously we have two Elimination Chamber matches. We have a WWE Championship match on the show. I think that's it. I think there was only three matches announced that I can think of. It's a WWE. Those are like the main matches: a WWE title match, and two Elimination Chamber matches. I can't really think of like another match that was really added on the show. I could be forgetting one, so I apologize for that if that's the case. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch the show and I'm gonna do what I've been doing for these videos, and after each match and stuff or segment, I will come on here and give my thoughts on it. So I hope you guys enjoy this review, and let's get to talking about the pay-per-view now. Okay, so the first thing that they show is the hype video package talking about this show, and it shows a thing of Shawn Michaels kind of talking about how WrestleMania immortalizes you, but you have to get through the Elimination Chamber to get to WrestleMania. So I always like that they show this video package. I think it's really well done. It talks about how the 12 superstars have to go through it and go through hell to get for one final chance to get to WrestleMania, and I just think it's great. Okay, so we had the actual show itself. We had Booker T, who had recently who came back to the WWE in 2011 at the Rumble. Josh Matthews and Michael Cole on commentary, and this was when Michael Cole had transitioned to a heel commentator, which was horrendous because he was a play-by-play commentator, but he rooted for heels, which was really weird. Which is probably why Josh Matthews out there, because he was a play-by-play commentator and rooted for the faces. But Michael Cole was really, and he was just really annoying as a heel too. Like, it was a bad time to watch Michael Cole on commentary. And I feel like this is why Michael Cole still to this day gets kind of trashed on commentary, is because of his work when he was a heel. So I feel like it's affected Michael Cole as a commentator still. But anyhow, we had the first match on the show. It was Alberto Del Rio with Ricardo Rodriguez as personal ring announcer ringside versus Kofi Kingston, who at the time was the Intercontinental Champion, but this was a non-championship match, or I should say a non-title match. And so let me kind of talk about the backstory of this match. We had Alberto Del Rio, who was really new to the company. He had debuted in 2010 and in October, and he ran roughshod on SmackDown. He was taking out superstars, and he was looking really good on SmackDown. And then he went on to the Royal Rumble in 2011 and won the biggest Royal Rumble match ever in WWE history, the 40-man Royal Rumble match. And he was already on his way to main event WrestleMania 27. And he had already decided he had wanted to face whoever the World Heavyweight Champion was going to be, which I'm going to talk about later on in this review. And he had a WrestleMania 27 fiesta and celebrating his Royal Rumble victory. And Kofi Kingston had come out and interrupted because earlier in the night, Alberto Del Rio had screwed Kofi Kingston out of being able to qualify for the Elimination Chamber match. He had cost him a chance to qualify against Drew McIntyre, and so Kingston tried to get revenge for it, but then Del Rio beat the crap out of him, and then they had a match on SmackDown a week later, which Del Rio won, and then Del Rio just continuously assaulted Kofi Kingston, so Kofi Kingston wanted some revenge, and this was his chance. And what a difference a year makes. You know, Kofi Kingston a year ago was in the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship, fighting for the main title. He was in a, really good program with Randy Orton, and then all of a sudden, he's just, he was right back in the mid card as Intercontinental Champion, and You know, it was pretty bad for Kofi Kingston. So let me talk about So now that I've talked about the backstory, let me talk about the match itself. The match itself, I thought was a good match. I didn't think it was anything special. Kofi Kingston dominates the first half of the matchup. He hits a dropkick, driving Del Rio out of the ring. He hits a dive on the floor, and then he beats the crap out of Del Rio. But then eventually, Del Rio, while he's on the apron, throws him ribs first into the steel post, and then ribs first into the steel steps. And he dominates Kofi Kingston. Really works over the injured ribs of Kingston. But then eventually, Kofi Kingston hits a crossbody out of the corner, and then he starts to make his comeback. He hits a boom drop on Del Rio. He goes for trouble in paradise, but Del Rio ducks it, and he tries to hit an enzuigiri on Kingston in the corner, but Kingston hits one himself. Then he goes for a crossbody, but Del Rio's able to get his knees up in midair, which I thought was a cool spot. And then eventually Kingston's able to hit a drop kick from the top rope. Del Rio hits a gutbuster, but Kingston kicks out. Kingston hits not the boom drop, the SOS, but Del Rio kicks out. And Del Rio goes for the cross arm breaker, but Kingston holds on to the ropes. And eventually Kingston hits a DDT and tries to pin Del Rio, but he gets but the referee gets distracted by Ricardo Rodriguez, who at the time when he was Del Rio's Spanish announcer would announce him in Spanish. And this distracts Kingston long enough for Del Rio to get the upper hand. He hits a neck breaker from while Kingston's on the top rope, and then eventually he gets Kingston in the cross arm breaker. At first, Kingston tries to stop it by holding his hands together, but eventually Del Rio forces him to let go, and Kingston ends up getting into the cross arm breaker, and Del Rio makes Kingston tap out for the win, and that was it. This match I thought was good. The only thing that hurt it is you knew Del Rio wasn't going to lose this match just because he was set to go main event WrestleMania, and why would you have Del Rio lose to Kofi Kingston, who was the Intercontinental Champion? And what I also hate about it, it's like I said, Kofi Kingston was being pretty much fed to Del Rio, which sucked. And Del Rio really wasn't the greatest performer at the time. He was still good, but he just wasn't the greatest performer. And now that I know the kind of guy that Del Rio is nowadays, it kind of hurts me to watch his matches. So that's kind of why some of the reasons I don't really care for this match. But it is a good match. I'm not going to deny that. And the aftermath, though, is not really much of an aftermath. Del Rio's I'll talk about because I believe his is because I want to wait till I talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match. And Kofi Kingston just went on to lose his IC title and competed in a non-consequential role of WrestleMania. So that's kind of... No one really benefited from this. Kingston really didn't benefit from this match. Okay, so next Edge gets interviewed. Now to kind of... So that way you'll kind of know what's going on with the interview. I'll kind of explain the build-up to the Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, Edge was going into this match as a World Heavyweight Champion. It wasn't really necessarily easy for him to get to this point, though. He talked about it in his interview, too. He ended up having to defend the World Heavyweight Championship a number of times against Dolph Ziggler. And Vicky Guerrero, who was kind of acting on Teddy Long's behalf as a general manager, had banned Edge's spear, so it made it difficult for him to keep his title. But Edge pretty much was able to keep his title no matter the odds. And then eventually Vicky Guerrero stripped him of the title because he had used the spear. And then Dolph Ziggler had won the title for 11 minutes, which sucked for Dolph Ziggler. And Edge ended up winning it back because Teddy Long came back. And the whole reason is because Vicky Guerrero was acting on his behalf because somebody had attacked Teddy Long. Edge was accused of attacking Teddy Long. So Vicky Guerrero, but then Teddy Long finds out that it was Dolph Ziggler. And then Edge, so he gave Edge his title shot, and yeah, that's about it. And Edge had won the title on the Go Home show of SmackDown, and it sounds really complicated and stupid the way I explained it, but that's what happened. And the other competitors that won this match was Kane, and they had qualifying matches. Kane qualified by defeating Chavo Guerrero. Wade Barrett qualified by defeating The Big Show. Drew McIntyre qualified by defeating Kofi Kingston, as I said earlier. And Rey Mysterio qualified by defeating Jack Swagger. And Dolph Ziggler originally was just automatically given the chance to be in this match by Vicky Guerrero. But Teddy Long, after he had lost the World Heavyweight Championship, fired Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph Ziggler was taken out of the match, so they needed a replacement, which they are going to announce, I think, later on in this, obviously, in the show. So Edge gets interviewed, pretty much talks about all this stuff, and he wanted to come in here and relax. And sarcastically he says it, but he says he knows that the danger of this match. Nobody's retained their title in a chamber match in 5 years. But he said that he's won a chamber match before, and he knows he can do it again. And then Drew McIntyre comes up and says that because one of the matches, Kelly, who ended up getting fired, and at this time, Drew McIntyre had a thing for Kelly. I don't know why. They were kind of starting to, this is when Drew McIntyre was kind of starting to diminish a little bit. He had and he was in this weird thing where he was fascinated with Kelly. Really didn't make any sense. And it didn't even go anywhere, actually, either, because Kelly had come back, and we never heard about it ever again. So, but anyhow, Drew McIntyre says that he stole, that in the process of this, he got Kelly fired. So he said that tonight he's going to take something that Edge holds cherished, his World Heavyweight title. And then Edge says, well, after tonight, this title and Kelly are both going to have something in common. They're never going to be seen with you. And then that was it. This was still kind of when there was when Edge was a face. He turned back face because in 2010 he was a heel for a little while. Then he turned face again. And this bad face, Edge really wasn't that bad as a face here. It's just really weird for me to see him as a face, I guess, just because I always preferred him as a heel. I think he's just a better heel. And especially the way he kind of came across here, being sarcastic to Todd Grisham, who was interviewing him, kind of came off as a heel. So I always just preferred heel up Edge because of his gimmick, Ultimate Opportunist, and everything. Okay, so it shows another video package for the Elimination Chamber. This one's kind of the one going through the statistics of the Elimination Chamber, stuff about it, the rules and everything. And I liked it. I thought it was good. I always like watching the video package. It gets better and better every time I see it. And I actually forgot to explain more things about the build-up because the World Heavyweight Title Elimination Chamber match is next. So I have to explain. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the build-up to it. So I already announced the competitors. You can go back, but some of these competitors in this match had history with each other. Edge and Rey Mysterio had a history because they were tag team partners in 2002, and then they kind of went on to have a feud in 2008 for the World Heavyweight Championship. And they have the history from when Edge has beaten him in the past in the Elimination Chamber match, so that there's history there. Edge and Kane also had a history from their feuds. They've had a lot of feuds, since 2004. Obviously, it really intensified in 2005. And then they had just a recent feud in 2010 for the World Heavyweight Championship, where Edge ended up taking the championship from Kane. And then they had the rematch and the Last Man Standing match. And Kane and Rey Mysterio had a history going back, to 2008 to the thing where Kane wanted to unmask Rey Mysterio. And then in 2010 for the feuding over the World Heavyweight Championship. Who else had a history in this match? No one else really had a history, I guess, in this match. That's about it. Not a lot of, a lot of these guys were new, but other stuff that was kind of going on was Wade Barrett had just come to SmackDown not that long ago. He had come from Raw because of the failed Nexus. So he came to SmackDown and he led the core with Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, and Ezekiel Jackson. He was running roughshod on SmackDown. He had beaten Rey Mysterio in a matchup to get in his quest to the Elimination Chamber. So that was cool. And that's really about all I guess you need to know about the build-up. Nothing else I can really think of off the top of my head. Obviously the stuff with Dolph Ziggler. And yeah, so now that I've kind of gone through it, let's talk about the match itself now. Okay, so next match was an Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship. World Heavyweight Champion Edge versus Rey Mysterio versus Drew McIntyre versus Wade Barrett. versus Kane, and then versus a mystery guy. So everybody comes out in their pods. Wade Barrett, Kane, Wade Barrett, Kane, and Drew McIntyre. And the final guy has to go in his pod. Originally, it was supposed to be Dolph Ziggler, but then Teddy Long comes out and says that since he fired Dolph Ziggler, he's obviously not going to be in this match. So here's Dolph Ziggler's replacement. And it ends up being the Big Show, which was kind of a disappointment because I think people were expecting like a huge return, and it ended up being the Big Show, which I feel bad for Big Show because he always gets put in that type of spot. But it made sense for Big Show to be in this match because he was feuding with Wade Barrett at the time, so I thought it made sense. And the two guys that ends up starting off the match is Edge and Rey Mysterio, which made it Edge's chances tougher to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. And they actually go at it. They have some chain wrestling, and Rey Mysterio does his quick drop kicks. And Edge actually kicks Rey Mysterio's ass through a good majority of it. He throws him back first 3 times into the chain link fence. But Mysterio's and he hits a big boot of Mysterio, but Mysterio hits a Hurricanrana into the turnbuckle. And then the next guy comes in. It's Wade Barrett, and he cleans out. He hits a winter change on Edge. He tosses Rey Mysterio into the chain link fence, and eventually Edge clotheslines Barrett on the outside. Mysterio hits a Hurricanrana into the chain link fence, and they dominate Wade Barrett. And eventually Wade Barrett tries to go for the wasteland, but Rey Mysterio is able to hold on, and but Barrett at first kicks him in the head, and then Mysterio hits a West Coast pop off the chain link fence while Barrett's on the floor, and all 3 guys are laid out, and then Kane comes pod opens next, and he cleans house. He hits right hands on everybody, a flying clothesline, a sidewalk slam. But eventually when he hits a flying clothesline on Edge, Mysterio comes in and kicks Kane in the head. Then Edge kicks Kane in the head, and Barrett kicks Kane in the head, but Kane's still able to kick out. And then Barrett, Mysterio, and Edge all take each other out with a triple clothesline on each other. And then Kane throws Barrett into the chain link fence, and sidewalk slams him onto it. And he hits a flying clothesline on him. And then eventually the next guy comes out. It's Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre immediately comes out. He tosses Rey Mysterio face first into one of the pods. Him and Barrett double team Kane and double DDT him on the chain link fence, onto the chamber floor. And then McIntyre throws Barrett through the one of the pods, which looked really cool. And once McIntyre got in this match, that's when this match really delivered. And the match was going great anyways, but once he came in, it was really good. Then Edge hits the execution on Drew McIntyre, and then the Big Show comes in, and he cleans house, and it takes everybody out. But the main guy he wants to go after is Barrett, and he throws Barrett through one of the pods, beats the crap out of him, tosses him into the chamber. And Barrett keeps trying to escape, but since it's an elimination chamber, he can't escape. Then eventually Big Show hits a knockout punch on Barrett, eliminates him, and then Kane hits a big boot on Big Show. Mysterio, and then Edge goes off the top rope and hits an elbow drop, and Kane hit a flying clothesline on him. Edge tries to eliminate him after the elbow drop, but Big Show kicks out. McIntyre hits the Future Shock DDT. Big Show still kicks out. Mysterio goes off the top rope and hits the Red Coast pop. Big Show still kicks out. And then Mysterio hits the 619, and Edge hits the spear on Big Show. And then Kane clears the win, and he hits a choke slam on Big Show and eliminates him, which I thought was kind of cool. So Big Show I thought looked pretty strong in this match. And then McIntyre tries to attack Kane off the top rope, but Kane catches him into a choke slam and eliminates him. But I thought McIntyre looked really strong in this match. It just kind of pisses me off because this was the last chance he really got to be in the main event scene. And then Kane and then Rey Mysterio hits a 619 and a Cena senton on Kane. Kane kicks out. And then eventually Mysterio tries to hit a Hurricanrana, but Kane catches him. And as he has him like in position where he caught him, Edge hits a spear on both guys, which looks really cool. And he eliminates Kane, so then it's just down to Mysterio and Kane. But before Kane leaves, he hits a choke slam on both guys, and then he leaves. And Then Mysterio and Edge start going at it. Mysterio hits a Hurricanrana on Edge. He hits a wheelbarrow bulldog, and then Edge hits a sit down power bomb on Mysterio. He gets him into the Educator, but Mysterio is able to reverse it into a roll up, and then eventually Mysterio hits a 619 and a splash, but Edge kicks out of it. Edge hits the spear, Mysterio kicks out of it. Then eventually hits the 619, and Mysterio goes once again to go off the top, but Edge catches him into a spear and retains the World Heavyweight Championship. I probably forgot some spots, and knowing me. But overall, this was a really good Elimination Chamber match. You really didn't know who was going to win this match. You knew it wasn't going to be any of the heels just because, or the Big Show, just because of the fact that Del Rio's a heel and he was going into WrestleMania, so you knew it wasn't going to be Kane, you knew it wasn't going to be Barrett, you knew it wasn't going to be McIntyre or the Big Show. But it was either between Rey Mysterio or Edge, and you did have a feeling it was going to be Edge since they were building to it. But the way they did this match, it kind of made it look like anybody could have won, and I kind of like how it truly was every man for himself. Everybody was fighting with each other, and I thought that made the match really deliver as well. There really wasn't much of an alliance in this match, which I don't mind when they do that type of stuff in the chamber, but it is nice sometimes when it's a true free for all. I think that makes the match sometimes, and yeah, Edge retaining his title. He was the first person in 5 years to retain his championship in an Elimination Chamber match. So that was cool, and he went all the way through. And Edge looked really strong in this match. It looked like a legitimate contender. Rey Mysterio looked really good. Everybody at least looked good in this match. Nobody I could say really looked weak, which was another touch. McIntyre looked really strong in this match. Barrett looked pretty good in this match. Mysterio looked really good in this match. He nearly won the Finn. Kane looked really strong. There was points where you thought Kane was going to get eliminated, but he was able to kick out. So I thought the match was really well done. And then afterwards, after Edge is celebrating, Alberto Del Rio attacks Edge since they're going to have the match at Mania, beats the crap out of him, and then he gets him in the cross arm breaker, which looked really painful the way he got him into it. And then who returns? None other than Christian. Now, if you didn't know, Alberto Del Rio had taken out Christian because of his cross arm breaker and caused a torn pectoral muscle, at least in storyline wise, anyways. So he wanted revenge on Del Rio. He comes in and beats the crap out of him, and referees and security are trying to hold him back. But then Christian hits a kill switch on Del Rio before he leaves, and you really put over Christian and you set up the feud between Christian and Del Rio. Then afterwards, after Christian leaves and his music's still playing, Edge ends up getting the last laugh and spearing Del Rio and holds up his title and celebrates with Christian's music, which was kind of cool. And the aftermath of this match set up some stuff for Mania and some stuff afterwards. Drew McIntyre really didn't go anywhere from this, which kind of sucks. He really could have been a legitimate player. Like I said, this was his last main event spot. He kind of just continuously declined after this, and he really didn't go anywhere. And now he's in TNA as the King of the Mountain champion. The Grand Slam champion or whatever he is. The Impact Grand Champion. That's what I was thinking. And Rey Mysterio went on to lose his Mania match, but then eventually, he stayed in the WWE at least for the rest of the year. This was kind of like his last year. He was really, I would say, fully healthy to work a full-time schedule after this. He was very injury prone, but he still, was able to come back when he did. And like I said, he's still in Lucha Underground, and he left WWE. He's been doing stuff in Lucha Underground, and I fully do expect Rey Mysterio to someday come back to WWE, whether it's just to be inducted into the Hall of Fame or to have one final run in WWE. I don't think WWE and Mysterio are necessarily in bad terms. It's just he wants to spend more time with his family, and he feels like he's not as injury prone. He was getting injured all the time, anyways. I think the road schedule was just had an effect of his body. So that's where Rey Mysterio went. Wade Barrett, I'll kind of get to what happened with this group, the core, in a couple of minutes. But Wade Barrett went on to have a pretty lame match at WrestleMania, and then eventually he was sometimes being pushed to the main event, sometimes he wasn't. Then eventually he was just relegated to the mid-card titles, and eventually he was released. So that kind of sucks to be Barrett. And then Big Show pretty much stayed in the same role, hasn't really changed, just has had a bunch of heel and face turns. And Dolph Ziggler, I guess I could mention, did end up getting rehired. He ended up going to Monday Night Raw and did his thing there. He's still signed with the company to this day. And Edge, I guess the only one I can really mention is Edge. Edge went on to have his feud with Del Rio for the World Heavyweight title, successfully defended it and retained it. Then eventually he ended up that ended up being his last match at Mania. He ended up having to retire because of his neck problems, but who knows if he would have still been wrestling. He probably would have been still wrestling a year later just because he said he was going to leave in early 2012. But anyhow, and then Del Rio and Christian went on to feud for the World Heavyweight title, and Christian would win the vacant world title from Del Rio. So, some good stuff came out of that. And it's really about it. So I would say the aftermath of this match really isn't particularly good because nobody really benefited from this match except maybe Edge and Del Rio and Christian. But Del Rio and Christian weren't even in this match. Maybe Mysterio benefited a little bit, and but McIntyre didn't benefit. Big Show really didn't benefit, but it didn't hurt him either. And Wade Barrett didn't really benefit all that much from this match, and neither did Dolph Ziggler, even though he wasn't in it. But he didn't really benefit. So, I think that's what kind of hurts the match is the aftermath because you kind of get pissed off seeing McIntyre in this match, Barrett, and yeah, you just kind of see where they went kind of after this match. So, but the match overall itself, I thought was really good. Okay, so next, Jerry the King Lawler got interviewed. So I really haven't mentioned him. He usually does commentary for the pay-per-views, but he's actually in a match. I'm going to kind of talk about the build-up a little bit. So with Jerry the King Lawler is going to be facing The Miz on this show. I don't even know if it's going to happen right now. I'll just talk about the build-up. But The Miz had won the WWE Championship by cashing his Money in the Bank on Randy Orton, and he ended up winning the WWE Championship. And he had a celebration a week later, and Lawler had called him out on it that he had 7 guys pretty much help him win the title, and he wanted a title shot. He had never had a WWE title match. He had been with the he had been wrestling in other promotions and territories and with the WWE itself for years. I believe they said like 34 years or something, but that could be wrong. So it could be the case now, but back then I'm not exactly sure. So he wanted a title shot. So then they made the title shot that night on Raw in a TLC match, and Miz was able to keep his title due to interference from Michael Cole, because this was then they were starting that whole Jerry the King Lawler Michael Cole, which was a pretty weird feud, which I'll talk about in the next when I do the WrestleMania review series. And they continued the feud with The Miz and Jerry the King Lawler. The Miz constantly attacking him, and Lawler constantly beating him in matches. And eventually it led to Jerry the King Lawler finally winning. He had won a battle royal that included R-Truth, John Morrison, Sheamus, Randy Orton, and John Cena. And Jerry the King Lawler ended up overcoming the odds, winning the battle royal. And and CM Punk was also in that battle royal as well, and Randy Orton. I don't know if I said them. But he had overcome the odds and won the battle royal, and he got to face The Miz for the WWE title. And the whole story in this match was that Jerry the King Lawler had never competed at WrestleMania, and he wanted to go into WrestleMania and compete, and he said it would mean the world to him if he could compete defending the WWE Championship. And The Miz and Jerry the King Lawler I thought really worked really well as a feud. It was just kind of weird though. He was getting this spotlight when other people could have gotten it, and that it lasted as long as it did. But it was Jerry the King Lawler's really last big run in the company as a competitor. He had a few more matches after this, but this was his last run as a competitor, and I thought he deserved this spot. I think he should have retired after his Mania match and just stick with commentary. So that's why I was kind of fine with it at the time. Maybe he's retiring from In the Ring, so they want to give him a big tribute, but that's not what ended up happening. But anyhow, so The Miz was belittling Jerry the King Lawler, saying that he doesn't have what it takes to main event WrestleMania, and be the WWE champion, and he's too old to be in the ring anymore. He should be stick to commentary. And I thought it was great. The Miz was a really good, I thought, WWE champion, even though there was things that I didn't like about his title reign, like he always had help to win, um, and the fact that he never really won his matches clean, even though it's the same thing, and also the fact that it felt like his title reign could have wasn't as special as it could have been, and yeah, so. But the Miz, I think people underrate him as a competitor still to this day. Everybody says it's because of the performers he works with, but I think the Miz actually is a really good, not necessarily in the ring, wrestling, but I think he's a good in ring wrestler. But he's just really good at getting hate on himself, and he's really good at on the mic, and he's just really good at getting people to hate him, which is what I think is missing in the wrestling business today. So, and Jerry the King Lawler talks about in this interview, he was keeping to himself all day, and he said that this is a huge moment for him. This is his chance. He just said there's two things he's never done, and that's be WWE champion and compete at WrestleMania. And he said that he thought this was going to be the most exciting time of his week, but a week prior to this show, his mom ended up passing away. So he kind of talks about that, how people have been pulling for him to win. So you actually could have legitimately believed that Jerry the King Lawler was going to win this match. I actually even myself kind of thought, okay, he's going to get like a 1 day reign with the title, so that way he could say he won the title. And you were thinking that was going to happen. Well, stay tuned. But that's kind of the whole build up of this match. I think it was a good build up. I thought it was a decent storyline. Okay, so next they have the big segment with Booker T and Trish Stratus. They were pretty much hyping up Tough Enough. It was kind of a waste of time, but it was nice to see Booker T and Trish Stratus. And Trish Stratus says it feels good to be back to see who's going to be the next WWE superstar or diva. And you know, she said that she's also been working on a new catchphrase, and then she goes, "Finally, the Trish has come back." She pretty much does a parody of The Rock's thing because The Rock had just actually made his return to WWE on the Monday before, and Booker T's like, "Tell me she didn't just say that." And then she says she's also here to see Jerry the King Lawler win the WWE title, and Booker T then says, "Can you dig that, sucker?" And then that was it. Overall, I thought it was like an okay segment. Nice to see Trish and Booker T, but it was not really that great of a segment. It was mainly to hype up Tough Enough, which WWE was hyping up a free TV show on a pay per view that people are paying $60 to see. Doesn't make any sense. And they're hyping up a TV show that wasn't going to air for 2 months, so it's really weird. And also, this segment was also full of cheap pops. So that's kind of what I thought about this segment. But overall, not a bad segment. It just, now they're playing the Chaperone trailer, which is a dumb movie. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's really cheesy. Alright, next match was a WWE Tag Team Championship match. WWE Tag Team Champions Santina Morello and Vladimir Kozlov versus Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater with Ezekiel Jackson ringside. This match really didn't have a lot of story behind it. It was just a match that was thrown on randomly on the show. Had some, I guess, because Morello and Kozlov had beaten Gabriel and Slater for the tag team titles. And yeah, that was really the only story, is that they beat them for the titles. This was when the core was really huge on SmackDown. It consisted of Wade Barrett, Ezekiel Jackson, Heath Slater, and Justin Gabriel, and they were running roughshod on SmackDown. They were taking out everybody, so they wanted to put the titles on them, I guess. But this match was a mess. And I forgot to mention, Tamina Snuka was ringside with Morello and Kozlov. I don't really get why they ever did a relationship angle with Santina Morello and Tamina Snuka. It made no sense, and it was weird. And Kozlov in 2009 was the Moscow Mauler, was undefeated, and he was, not a great wrestler, but he was being taken seriously. And then here he's lost a bunch of matches. He's used as a comedy character, and he just still sucks. So yeah, Vladimir Kozlov definitely diminished since 2009. But this match was a mess. This match was all over the place. I didn't know what was going on in this match. the commentary was atrocious. This is what an example of how bad heel Michael Cole was on commentary. It was a lot of the match was Booker T and Michael Cole bickering on commentary, and it was bad. The commentary too wasn't really good. Michael Cole, until this point of the show, was actually being a good commentator, like his old face self, and then here he's just all over the place. And this is why Michael Cole, as a heel commentator, sucked. I personally thought it wasn't just because, uh, he was a heel, but it didn't work, and he was annoying as a heel commentator. Thank God he's a face again. Um, and This match, like I said, was a mess. Morello and Kozlov dominate the first half of it, but then Gable and Slater get the heat on Santino for a little while. Kozlov gets tagged in, hits a battering ram on Gabriel, and but then they dominate Kozlov. They hit it. Gabriel hits an Integral to the head. Slater hits a springboard splash on him, and then eventually Morello gets the hot tag on Slater, and he goes for the pinfall, but he sees Gable getting in the win. He hits an arm drag on him. He hits the Cobra, which is the worst finisher in wrestling history, on Justin Gabriel. But since he's not the legal man, he's got to pin Slater. Slater kicks out. Slater beats the crap out of him, and they get the heat on him. And then Kozlov gets the hot tag, and he goes off on him. Hits 3 headbutts to the chest on Gabriel, and then eventually he thinks that he has Gabriel beat, but Slater tagged himself in, so Ezekiel Jackson pulls out Justin Gabriel. Slater hits a reverse DDT, takes a cheap shot at Santino, and Gabriel hits the 450 on Kozlov, gets the win, and Slater and Gabriel become the new WWE Tag Team Champions. The only thing that came out of this match was the white team won. Everything else was a mess. This match was a piece of crap. This was a mess. That's all I can really say about it. And the aftermath of this match really didn't go anywhere. You had Gabriel and Slater and Jackson, the core, ended up going on to WrestleMania to face Kane, Big Show, Kofi Kingston, and because he was taking Kozlov place because he was injured, and Santino Morelos at WrestleMania and lost in like a minute and a half. And then Gabriel and Slater would go on to lose the tag titles to Kane and the Big Show, and then the core shortly disbanded, and no one ever recovered. The only person that's in the core that's still signed to the company to this day is Heath Slater. Justin Gabriel went on to become a jobber, but sometimes would fight for the mid-card championship. Ezekiel Jackson, I don't even know where the hell he went. I know he's not in the company, but I don't even know what he was doing in the company. I think he was just they were just wasting time with him. And then Wade Barrett, I already kind of mentioned what happened with him, so Heath Slater is the only one that's still signed to the company to this day. So, yeah, the core was a failure. Okay, so next, The Miz and Alex Riley get interviewed. And if you don't know who Alex Riley is, at the time, he was the apprentice. I believe he was the apprentice. I believe that's of The Miz. And he was this rookie on NXT Season 2, and then they became a team up together. And obviously, this leads to something with a feud later on down the line, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But The Miz talked about how, Todd Grisham asked him, since we just saw a title change hands tonight, does this worry you that you could lose your title? And Miz ask, what year is it? And he says that it's not the year of the kin, it's not the year of the great one, it's the year of The Miz. And he says he's going to address The Rock later on tonight, but he says he's going to address Lawler when he crushes his 40 years dream of wanting to become WWE champion. And he says, as for the guys in the Raw Elimination Chamber match, luckily for them, 5 of them are going to lose, and one of them is going to be unlucky to have to face him and suffer the same fate at WrestleMania. And then he says, because he's The Miz, and he's like, I don't even need to say it. He's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to say it because I've deserved it. Because I'm The Miz, and I'm awesome. The Miz, actually, I thought at this time was on the top of his game, even though he is still now on top of his game. This was like when he was on top, in the main event, the WWE champion. And what a difference 2000, I believe 5 or 4 makes, because in 2005 he was a nut, and here he is the WWE champion. Like, I would say, kind of worked his way from the bottom up, not necessarily wrestled all over the indies or anything like that, but he had been shadowed with a lot of crap in his first year, but then eventually he I thought progressed up the code, and he got better and better as the years went on. He was a United States champion, a two-time United States champion, a former Unified Tag Team champion. He was the Money in the Bank winner, and he eventually went on to become WWE champion. And did he necessarily get handed this job? Yeah, I'd say so, but I would say he definitely busted his ass to get to the WWE title. Just my opinion. There's some people that I'd say like Miz has busted his ass more than some people now that just have gotten handed this shot. So that's just what I think. Okay, so next Vicky Guerrero comes out, and she's not her normal Vicky Guerrero. She screams, "Excuse me!" She's all upset, and she says that Dolph Ziggler has a temper, and sometimes it makes him do things without thinking. And she says that he's sorry and he wants his job back, and she wants all the fans to take Twitter, call Teddy Long, text him, and beg him to give Dolph Ziggler his job back. Then Teddy Long comes out and says, "Lucky for you, I am in a hiring mood." And she's like, "Thank you." And she thinks he's gonna hire Dolph Ziggler back. So he's like, "Dolph's gonna be so happy." And then she's like, "Quiet. I didn't hire Dolph back. I hired somebody else back." And she says that, and he says that he's given this person full permission to thank you for acting as a SmackDown general manager. Holla. So then it's Kelly because she had been fired by Vicky Guerrero because she was trying to help Edge keep his World Heavyweight Championship. And Vicky Guerrero runs away, and but Kelly catches her, and she beats the crap out of Vicky Guerrero up until Lay Cool, which consisted of Michelle McCool and Layla, come out and beat the crap out of Kelly. They throw her into the barricade. Michelle McCool hits a big boot while she's into the barricade, and they beat the crap out of Kelly, and then Trish Stratus comes out and tries to fight them, but they run away. But when she has her back to him while she's checking on Kelly, they attack her from behind. But Trish Stratus fights back the best she can. But eventually the numbers game gets up to her, but then she continues to fight back. She hits the chick kick on Michelle McCool, and she hits the Hurricanrana off the top rope on Layla, and then hits the Stratus Faction on Michelle McCool, but kicks Layla in the face in the process. And afterwards, Kelly and Trish Stratus stand tall. This wasn't really bad. It was just kind of there. It was a filler segment. But this would lead to the mixed tag match with Trish Stratus and Snooki teaming up with another superstar, which I'll get to at the end of the review, facing off against Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool. Even though it was kind of weird because if you think it actually should be Kelly and Trish Stratus, since she was the one that was fired by Vicky Guerrero and she never really got her full revenge. Kind of weird how that works out. Okay, so next was a WWE Championship match. WWE Champion The Miz with Alex Riley ringside versus Jerry the King Lawler. The video package for the build-up of this match was great. I'm not going to talk about it because it's kind of the same stuff. But I thought it was really well done. And the match starts off with Lawler trying to get a quick roll-up on Miz, but Miz kicks out. And then eventually Lawler just pretty much out-wrestles Miz. He hits a couple of drop kicks on him, a clothesline outside the ring. But then eventually he gets distracted by Alex Riley, and Miz throws Lawler head first into the steel post, and then he kicks him while he's on the apron. And the Miz dominates the matchup for a while. He hits a clothesline in the corner. And then eventually, though, Lawler's able to make a comeback. And I thought that was good. He goes for the power driver. Miz counters it into a backdrop. And then what else? Then eventually Miz throws Lawler on the outside. And Michael Cole's talking trash to him because they were kind of teasing the feud between Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler. There was other stuff going on in this match, like the backslides. Alex Riley took another cheap shot at Lawler and pulled him down, so the referee kicks Riley out of the match. And then Miz went for the clothesline. Lawler countered into a drop kick into a clothesline of his own. Then they went on the outside. Miz throws Lawler back first into the apron 3 times, and he tries to bounce his head off the announce table, but Lawler blocks it and bounces Miz's head off the announce table 3 times, and throws Miz into Michael Cole, so Michael Cole's kind of out the rest of the match, and then Lawler hits a body slam, and another spot is too was when Lawler hit an inverted brainbuster off the top rope on the Miz. That was cool. But then Lawler hits the right hand from the second turnbuckle, and he thinks he's going to win the matchup. He covers the Miz, but Miz gets his foot on the ropes, and then eventually Lawler tries to go for the power driver. Miz goes to counter into a roll up, but Lawler rolls him up, and then Miz rolls Lawler up, but they both kick out. Then Miz kicks Lawler in the back of the head and hits the skull crushing finale on him for the win and retains his WWE title. You could say that maybe Lawler should have won this match just because of everything he had gone through, but that's just kind of pity and and I think would have been too predictable. I think the Miz was the right guy to go over. They were really pushing him, and it really would have been pointless to put the title on Lawler if he was just gonna, if they were just gonna have him drop it the next, because that's probably what would have happened. He would have just dropped it the next night anyways, so it really would have been pointless. The Miz was the right guy. I think Lawler was there to put over the Miz. And afterwards, Michael Cole raises Miz's hand. And afterwards, Lawler's all disappointed that he lost. And Michael Cole's just trashing him on commentary. But Lawler, the fans show respect to Lawler. And, yeah, that was it. Overall, though, I thought this match actually was a really good match. I thought the storytelling in this match was really good. And I thought the match itself, just Miz and Lawler had pretty good chemistry when they wrestled each other, so I thought it was good in that aspect. And after this, I'll say what happens with the Miz at the end of the video, but Lawler would go on to end up competing at WrestleMania. He would face Michael Cole, which was weird. And they would have the match where Michael Cole won by DQ, so then it led to that feud for 3 months that lasted way too long. Well, eventually Lawler won a Kiss My Foot match against Cole, and they eventually started doing commentary together again. So, yeah, I thought Lawler didn't really benefit. I mean, if he could have his big win at Mania, he would have benefited, but it didn't happen. So, he benefited, but he was just kind of, I think, a placeholder for someone for the Miz to feud with. So, yeah, that's that. Okay, so now let me talk about the build-up for the next match. It's going to be an Elimination Chamber match where the winner faces the WWE Champion, which we now know is The Miz at WrestleMania. So let me talk about the build-up for that match. So it's between R-Truth, Ken Sheamus, John Cena, Randy Orton, CM Punk, and John Morrison. And the reason for this match is because these 6 guys will also win that battle royal with Jerry the King Lawler. Whoever had won would get the title match on the show, and the other 6 guys would have to face off in the Elimination Chamber to decide who was going to face the winner of that match at WrestleMania. And since, The Miz just had retained his title, we knew it was going to be The Miz. So, yeah, that kind of led us to this match. Let me talk about, though, the history that these people had. So, obviously, John Cena and Randy Orton had a history, as I talked about countless times. The feud back in 2007, going into 2008 to 2009, and, their history matches when it comes to title matches at SummerSlams 2007 and 2009, the triple threat matches they've had with each other, fatal 4-ways, even Hell in a Cell, I Quit, and even at 1 hour, Anything Goes Iron Man match, they had a history with each other. John Cena and Ken Sheamus had a history with each other when Sheamus at TLC 2009 had taken the WWE Championship from John Cena in a tables match, and then Sheamus would beat him in a fatal 4-way match for the title, and would defeat him in a steel cage match, so they had a history with each other. And Randy Orton and Ken Sheamus had a history from their feud in 2010 from the Royal Rumble, and then they had a match at SummerSlam for the title, and a 6-pack challenge that included Orton, Cena, and Randy Orton. And then they went off to face off with each other in a Hell in a Cell match where Randy Orton would win the feud. And also in this match, Ken Sheamus and John Morrison had a history with each other because they were feuding in 2010, where John Morrison would defeat him at Survivor Series. Ken Sheamus would defeat Morrison in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. But then Morrison became the #1 contender They beat him in the ladder match to become the number one contender for the WWE title, but they were still kind of feuding a little bit. John Morrison and CM Punk had a history feud with each other from their days in ECW, feuding for the ECW title. Um, and CM Punk and R-Truth had a history with each other from the feud on SmackDown in 2009. And they were starting the Randy Orton CM Punk feud because at this time we had known that Randy Orton had in 2008 had punted CM Punk in the skull, preventing him, costing him the World Heavyweight Championship. So CM Punk wanted to get revenge on him. CM Punk had screwed Randy Orton out of the WWE title at the Royal Rumble. So they were starting to plant the seeds with the Randy Orton CM Punk feud. John Cena and CM Punk had a little bit of a history because CM Punk had taken over the Nexus because originally Wade Barrett was the leader of it, but then CM Punk took it over, making it the new Nexus. And John Cena had already feuded with the Nexus, so then John Cena and CM Punk were feuding with each other. They had a few matches together, so that was that. And CM Punk wanted to hurt everybody going in this match, and they had succeeded. He had taken out Randy Orton on an episode of Raw. Each member of Nexus faced off with the member of this that was in this match, except for CM Punk. R-Truth faced Mason Ryan, and Mason Ryan was just there to hurt R-Truth. John Morrison faced Michael McGillicuddy, and Morrison was able to beat him, but then CM Punk sprayed something in his eyes and kicked him in the head and took him out. And then Ken Sheamus was supposed to face David Otunga, but however, CM Punk had spread a rumor around that saying that Ken Sheamus was talking crap about Mark Henry, so Mark Henry just completely wiped him out. And CM Punk tried to take out Cena, but he failed. Then eventually he would defeat John Cena in a matchup on Raw a week later. And then all the members in the Chamber matches had matches with each other. Randy Orton faced Ken Sheamus in a no contest where everybody had a big spear with each other, and Morrison and Truth were able to defeat David Otunga and Michael McGillicuddy, I believe, in a matchups together. So, and Randy Orton going this as he was feuding with Punk had taken out one of his new Nexus members, Husky Harris. So, yeah, going into this, there was a decent amount of build up to this match. So, when it was going to fight for the WWE title at WrestleMania 27 makes it more interesting. So then, let's talk about the interviews. So John Cena, you see him eating Fruity Pebbles because The Rock had been talking crap about him, saying he was a Fruity Pebbles wearing fool. So John Cena said he's not focused on The Rock. He's focused on him winning the Elimination Chamber and getting to WrestleMania for the WWE title. And he does some sort of reference about the uniform, saying that I'm gonna yabby dabby do that. And then CM Punk talks about how there's no way that John Cena is going to defeat him or any of the other superstars in this match because he's 3-0 against John Cena, and he can't see John Cena doing that. I thought he actually cut a pretty good promo, and that was about it. So overall, this was all decent stuff here. Okay, so then we had the main event. It was the Elimination Chamber match when the winner faced the WWE Champion, which we found out was The Miz at WrestleMania 27. It was John Cena versus Randy Orton versus Ken Sheamus versus John Morrison versus R-Truth versus CM Punk. I never really understood why R-Truth was ever in this match because he was kind of a jobber at this time. Cena, Orton, Ken Sheamus, Punk, and Morrison made sense, but not R-Truth. I thought he just kind of was an odd fit in this match. He was losing matches all the time too. Like he even lost on NXT, which had become a jobber show. So it was like, why is he in this match? But anyhow, John Morrison and Ken Sheamus started off the matchup, which I thought made sense considering the fact that they were the ones in a feud, and Morrison and Sheamus start wrestling each other. Morrison lays a bunch of right hands on Ken Sheamus. Ken Sheamus tosses Morrison on the outside, but he lands on his feet, and Ken Sheamus goes to toss him into the chain link fence, but Morrison hangs on like Spider-Man, and he hits a dive and swift kick off the top rope, which I thought looked pretty cool. And then Sheamus takes control with a clothesline, and he pretty much dominates Morrison for a while. He throws him 3 times into the chain link fence, and he goes for the pole kick, but Morrison counters it, but Sheamus counters himself with a suplex. and he beats the crap out of Morrison. Then the next guy comes in, it's Randy Orton, and he goes off on everybody. He hits a couple of clotheslines on Morrison and Sheamus, a scoop slam. He throws Morrison 3 times into the chain link fence. He throws Sheamus into the chain link fence, and he throws Sheamus through one of the pods. And he's doing all. Actually, he throws Morrison actually into one of the pods, and he's doing this all in front of CM Punk, who he was feuding with, and CM Punk's just laughing about it. And he hits a draping DDT on Sheamus onto the steel grating on the floor, and then he dominates John Morrison. They hit stomps on both Morrison and King Sheamus, and then he hits 2 superplexes off the top rope onto both guys. And then eventually it's time for CM Punk to come in, and Orton just goes directly to CM Punk's pod because he wants to get his hands on him. And CM Punk's pod, it's time for him to come out, but his pod doesn't open. It has a malfunction. CM Punk's stuck between his pod, so he can't get out. So Orton's just standing there. And so what happens is then Randy Orton viciously attacks CM Punk and beats the crap out of him, eventually just pulls him out of his pod. And he throws him into the chain link fence of the chamber, and then he hits an RKO on Punk and eliminates him. However, the anonymous Raw general manager, who was the computer that would send emails and Michael Cole would read them, and he says that since CM Punk didn't really get a fair chance in this match, he's allowed to re-enter his pod and be reinstated. So I didn't really think that made any sense. I don't know if this was a mess up or not. I feel like if this was planned, just because of the fact that if it was a mess up, how would they wouldn't be able to fix it the way they fixed it, and it just is kind of weird, And I think they planned this. I didn't really like the way that they planned it. If it's a mess up, then I can understand that, but I didn't really like the way that they planned it because of the fact that it just kind of made the Elimination Chamber match kind of weird. So, but Orton continuously dominates the match, and then Sheamus hits an Irish Curse backbreaker on Orton, and then King Sheamus throws Orton into the chain link fence a couple of times. He throws Morrison into the chain link fence a couple of times. He rams him back first, and then the next entrant comes in. It's John Cena. Sheamus immediately attacks him before he can get out of his pod, and hits vicious knees to the head of Cena, and Cena really didn't get much offense in this match, actually. And Sheamus hits a wicked knee to the face of Cena, and Morrison hits a crossbody on Cena, and Orton and Cena go at it for a little bit, and eventually the next entrant comes in. It's R-Truth, and King Sheamus tries to do the same thing in R-Truth, but Truth ducks and beats the crap out of King Sheamus in the pod and bounces his head in the back, hits a hip toss on King Sheamus, and R-Truth gets some offense going for a little while. He hits the lie detector on Cena, but then King Sheamus takes off R-Truth's head with a blow kick and covers him and eliminates him. So like I said, R-Truth was really inconsequential because he just got eliminated right away, right when he came out pretty much. So then it's just down to King Sheamus, Orton, Morrison, and Cena for the time being. And Orton and Cena are fighting with each other. He throws Cena a couple of times into the chain link fence. And then eventually it's time for CM Punk to come out again. So Orton goes so he can beat up Punk again. But Cena tries to AA Orton. But Orton hits an RKO on Cena. And then King Sheamus blow kicks Orton into the chain link fence. And right when this happens, CM Punk just comes right out. And he slingshots Orton into the chain link fence. And then he mocks Randy Orton by act like he's setting up for the RKO. But then he hits the GTS on Orton and eliminates him. So, I thought it made sense that Punk eliminated Orton, and this really would launch off the feud going into Mania. And then CM Punk hits a wicked knee on Cena. He hits a high knee on Sheamus, and he goes to bulldog him onto the steel grating, but Sheamus counters and throws Punk on the steel grating, and this just chamber match is false count anywhere. So Sheamus tries to pin him, but then Punk kicks out, and then Morrison and Sheamus can fight back with each other, and Morrison goes up on one of the pods, and King Sheamus follows him up there, and attacks Morrison, which I thought this was cool, and then Morrison was able to push King Sheamus off the top of the pod, and then Morrison climbs up the dome of the chamber, and he climbs up pretty much to the entire top, to like the structure, and he dives on Sheamus, covers him, and eliminates him. I thought this was like a sick spot, and this was one like and Morrison really made this match. So then it's just down to Morrison, CM Punk, and John Cena in like a triple threat match, pretty much, and they just had these guys go for a while. Cena hits his 5 moves of doom on Punk. He goes for the AA, but he ends up but he ends up hitting it on Morrison instead onto the instead. And went for it earlier on Morrison, but he landed on his feet onto the steel grating. And then CM Punk tossed Morrison into the steel grating earlier in the match. And but Cena actually hit it on Morrison, but CM Punk attacks Cena before he can cover him, hits a kick to the head, throws Cena to the outside, and throws Cena into one of the pods, but it doesn't break. And then CM Punk hits a dive onto the outside and ends up hurting his elbow a bit. And then Cena tries to hit the AA on the other side of the chamber onto the steel grating, but then Morrison dives on both guys, takes them out, and then Morrison goes to hit a knee right onto Cena while he's in between the glass, and Morrison inadvertently kicks the pod, and this was like the 3rd time he had gone through, because then CM Punk had thrown him through again earlier, and so Morrison's hurt, and then it's down to Cena and Punk. But then eventually Morrison tries to go with the Starship Pain on Punk, but Punk moves out of the way, and he hits the because Punk tried to do something to Morrison, but he ends up holding onto the pod and hitting the spin kick, which was sick. And Punk hits the go to sleep on Morrison, eliminating him. And then eventually he tried to charge at Cena, but Cena tries to go for the AA, but Punk holds onto the ropes, and then Cena realizes he can just AA him on the steel grate, and then that's exactly what he does. And he covers Punk and eliminates him, so Cena wins the matchup. And The Miz and Alex Riley were looking on, so this pretty much we knew it was going to be Cena versus Miz. And that was the end of the match. Overall, I thought this match actually was really good. I like the SmackDown World Heavyweight Title Elimination Chamber match better. I think what hurt this one was there was some things I found questionable about it, like the fact that R-Truth was in it and just got eliminated like that. Was really weird. CM Punk's pod malfunction I didn't really care for. And what else did I not care for? The fact that Cena won. I feel like Morrison should have won this match because it really would have made sense. Because here's what happened after this match. So Cena would go on to feud with The Miz, but he was kind of feuding with The Rock at the same time. And The Miz was being overshadowed, so it was really like and they were really just building up for The Rock and Cena's Mania match at WrestleMania 28. But Miz would defend the title, but then eventually Cena would just win it at Extreme Rules and then beat Miz in the I Quit match. And Morrison was just pretty much an inconsequential role. He ended up being shafted into that mixed tag with that I talked about with Snooki and Twistratus and Morrison versus Ziggler and Laycool, which made no sense. Bad utilization at Mania for Morrison and Ziggler. And then R-Truth was in an inconsequential role going into WrestleMania. Eventually he had his great heel turn, which we'll get to later. And CM Punk and Randy Orton will go on to feud with each other at WrestleMania. Orton beat Punk both times, both at Mania and at Extreme Rules in a last man standing match, finishing off that feud. And King Sheamus would go on to win the U.S. title and defend that at WrestleMania. So really, Morrison, I think, should have won this matchup because Miz would not have gotten overshadowed, and it would have made sense to do a matchup between Miz and Morrison for the title because they were both former tag team partners with each other, and you could have done Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania 27 instead. You already had The Rock there. Why not have him have a match? And I know we got it a year later, and they built it up pretty well. And they had it built up in a year stretch, but you could have done it in 3 months. And I don't really think the length of the build-up between a match with Cena and Rock would have mattered. It made sense. It would have made sense, and to have Miz and Morrison instead, because that way they could have a proper match where they were showcased at Mania, and you could either have Miz just keep the championship, or you could finally have Morrison have a big victory with the title, and you could instantly make a new star. I think that would have made more sense. But what they still did, I guess, was fine. It was just, I feel like Morrison was just the better option to win this matchup. But the chamber match I still thought was really good. It definitely picked up once it was down to the three guys at Morrison, Cena, and Punk, and Morrison doing all doing all the big spots he was doing. I think really made the match deliver. I thought Randy Orton looked really good in this match. CM Punk looked good, but that malfunctioning pod was just weird and didn't make any sense. And Sheamus I thought looked pretty good in this match. Overall, I thought this was a really good chamber match, just with problems. And that's the end of this review. Overall, I thought this show was I thought it was okay. Um, I thought it actually had a good start with Del Rio and Kingston having their match, and they had a good match. The SmackDown Chamber match was good, but then you had things like that WWE Tag Team Title match was bad. I thought the middle of the show was really bad. Not really bad, but just all thrown together and jumbled. The Tough Enough segment wasn't needed on this show. And Kelly and Vicky Guerrero's segment wasn't needed on the show either. But then it picked up towards the end with the WWE title match and the Elimination Chamber match for the main event. But overall, I thought it was I'll give it an okay show because it was okay. But the middle of the show just did not deliver at all. And what I also heard it was once Michael Cole went to his heel mode commentary and having to hear him on being his annoying heel, because in the beginning he was actually his normal self, and then towards the but as the show progressed he went to his annoying heel self, especially during the WWE title match, and obviously, but in the world title match I thought he was better. He was his normal self. So the commentary on the show was not the greatest either. And Booker T and Josh Matthews really do a bad job. It's just Michael Cole as a heel commentator just really brings the show down. And it still hurts Michael Cole, I think, to this day, because people really don't think he's that good of a commentator today. So it's it kind of sucks to be Michael Cole. But overall, I thought it was an okay show. If you wanted to go back and rewatch it, I would say maybe would recommend it just before the two chamber matches, the WWE title match, and the match with Del Rio and Kingston was good. And yeah, I would recommend it for that stuff. But maybe skip the middle when the WWE Tag Team Title match starts and the whole Tough Enough segment starts. I would definitely skip that stuff because it's really not needed to see. And that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to subscribe to my CM Brothers and Owen the Talkinator channel, and subscribe to this channel as well. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.